Hey everyone, welcome back to Learn English Naturally. I am so excited for this deep dive
Oh, yeah.
because we're tackling something that can be a bit scary, even for native speakers.
Yeah,
Job interviews. We're
absolutely.
going to decode those tricky questions, polish up some key vocabulary, and even do some role-playing to help you nail those conversations.
So many people focus on just memorizing answers, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
Today, we'll go beyond the surface and really understand the why behind the questions and strategies. By the end of this, you'll be able to walk into any interview feeling confident and prepared.
Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of questions and answers,
Right.
I was flipping through this resource,
Okay.
and I realized
Yeah.
some words might trip people up,
Oh, for sure.
especially in pronunciation.
Yeah.
I mean, I still sometimes stumble over resume.
Oh, absolutely. Resume is a great example. That second syllable can be tricky for non-native speakers. It's resuo may not resume. And just to add another layer, in many countries, it's called a CV, which stands for curriculum vitae. Both terms essentially mean the same thing. It's a document outlining your work experience and qualifications.
See, that's what I love about this deep dive. We're not just learning words, we're understanding the context too.
Yeah.
Now, another word I think we should tackle is position.
Okay.
I know it seems basic,
Right.
but using it correctly in an interview shows you understand the specific job you're applying for.
Right. You don't want to be vague and just say job using position demonstrates a level of professionalism and clarity. And while we're at it, benefits is another important word. Make sure you understand what the company offers beyond salary, things like health insurance, retirement plans, or even gym memberships. These can be big factors in your decision making.
Okay, so we've got our vocabulary down. Now let's talk about those dreaded open-ended questions that always seem to pop up in interviews. You know, the ones that make you freeze up like a deer in headlights. I'm talking about the infamous, tell me about yourself.
Ah, yes, the classic icebreaker. It's interesting because on the surface, it seems simple, right? But it's actually a strategic question for interviewers. They're not just looking for a chronological life story. They want to see how you present yourself, how you highlight relevant skills, and how well you connect your experience to their needs.
It's like you're telling a story,
Yes.
but the story has to be tailored to your audience, right?
Exactly. Think of it as a movie trailer. You're giving them a glimpse of your best qualities and making them want to see the whole film, so to speak.
So how do we craft this trailer effectively? Should we rehearse a whole speech?
Rehearsing is good, but not a full-blown speech. The key is to have a mental framework. I like to think of it as 3 parts. First, briefly touch on your background, your relevant education or experience, then highlight key skills and accomplishments, making sure they align with the position, and finally tie it back to why you're interested in this particular opportunity and what you bring to the table.
I love that a 3-act structure for your tell me about yourself response.
Yeah.
It makes it so much less daunting. Okay, so let's say we've aced the introduction. What's next on the interview hit list?
Well, next up, they often want to know why you want this job at this company.
Yes.
Yeah.
It feels like such a trap.
Right.
Like, what if you're just thinking, well, I need a paycheck.
Yeah.
How do you make it sound genuine and enthusiastic?
It's all about research and connecting the dots before the interview. Spend time on the company's website, read their mission statement, understand their values, then think about how your goals align with theirs. Maybe you're passionate about their products or their commitment to sustainability resonates with you. Find that genuine connection and articulate it.
So it's not about making stuff up.
No.
It's about finding the real overlap between what they stand for and what you care about.
Exactly. They want to see that you're not just randomly applying, that you've put thought into why this particular opportunity matters to you.
This is already making me feel so much more prepared. Okay, I'm ready for the next challenge. Hit me with it.
All right, let's dive into what's probably the most dreaded question of all. What are your greatest strengths and weaknesses?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That one always makes me sweat.
I know.
I feel like I'm either bragging or admitting I'm terrible at my job.
I know. It feels like a minefield ride.
But don't worry, there are strategies to navigate this one gracefully and honestly.
Okay, tell me everything.
Okay.
How do we tackle the strengths part without sounding arrogant?
The key is to be specific and provide evidence. Don't just say, I'm a hard worker. Instead, say something like, one of my greatest strengths is my ability to manage multiple projects under tight deadlines. For example, in my previous role, I successfully led 3 major product launches simultaneously, all while staying within budget and exceeding client expectations.
So it's about quantifying your strengths with real-world examples. Don't just tell them, show them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the weaknesses part is where it gets trickier.
Yeah. I'm already cringing just thinking about it.
I know it's uncomfortable, but the interviewer isn't trying to catch you out. They're actually looking for self-awareness and a willingness to grow. So should I just blurt out my biggest flaw, like I'm a terrible procrastinator?
Well, not exactly. The trick is to choose a weakness that you're actively working on improving and frame it in a positive light, for example. You could say, I sometimes struggle with delegating tasks because I want to ensure everything is done perfectly. However, I'm learning to trust my team members and empower them to take ownership of their work.
That's brilliant. You've turned a potential negative into a positive by showcasing your commitment to growth.
Exactly, and it shows that you're self-aware and proactive about addressing areas where you can improve.
Wow, this is eye-opening. I'm already feeling so much more confident about tackling those tricky questions. What else do we need to know before we put all this into practice?
Well, there's one more crucial element we need to cover before we move on to our role play.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in terms of how to approach common interview questions, but there's one piece of the puzzle that always makes me nervous.
Okay.
It's the end of the interview, where they turn it over to you and ask, do you have any questions for me?
I know exactly what you mean. It feels like the pressure is suddenly on and you're supposed to come up with something brilliant on the spot. But here's the thing. This is actually a golden opportunity.
Wait, really? How? So I always feel like I should just say, nope, all good, and get out of there.
I get it. It can feel awkward, but think of it this way. Asking insightful questions does two things. First, it shows the interviewer that you're genuinely interested and engaged. You've been actively listening and thinking critically about the role and the company. Second, it gives you valuable information to decide if this is the right fit for you.
Okay, that makes sense, but my mind always goes blank.
Yeah.
What are some good go-to questions that will impress the interviewer and give me useful information?
Great question. Here are a few categories to consider. You can always ask about company culture, something like, what's the team dynamic like? Or how does the company promote work-life balance?
Those are good ones.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about company culture because it can make or break your experience, even if the job itself sounds great.
Exactly. Another area to explore is growth opportunities. You could ask, what are some typical career paths for someone in this role? Or what professional development programs does the company offer?
It shows you're ambitious.
Yes.
And thinking long-term.
Right, absolutely. And don't be afraid to get specific about the day-to-day work. You could ask, what are some of the biggest challenges someone in this role might face? Or can you describe a typical day or week in this position?
I love that. It shows you're really trying to picture yourself in the role and understand what you'd be doing. Okay, so we've got our question game plan ready, but I have to admit there's one part of the interview that I really dread.
Okay.
Talking about salary.
I know it can feel super awkward,
Yeah.
but it's a crucial part of the conversation, and with the right approach, it doesn't have to be stressful.
Okay, so spill the secrets. How do we talk about money without fumbling or sounding greedy?
First and foremost, do your research. Use websites like Glassdoor or Salary.com to understand the average salary range for similar positions in your location and industry. This gives you a realistic benchmark.
So I shouldn't just throw out a random number.
Right. You want to be informed and confident. Now, ideally, the interviewer will bring up salary first. But if they don't, it's perfectly okay to ask about compensation towards the end of the interview.
Okay, but what do I actually say? I'm picturing myself turning bright red and stammering.
Keep it simple and professional. You could say something like, I'm very interested in this opportunity, and I'm curious about the salary range for this position. Or, could you tell me more about the compensation package?
That sounds much easier than I thought. But what happens if they offer a salary that's lower than what I was expecting? Do I just accept it?
Not necessarily. This is where negotiation comes in. But remember, negotiation isn't about being demanding or aggressive. It's about having an open and respectful conversation.
Okay, so how do we negotiate effectively without ruining our chances of getting the job?
The key is to be prepared with your talking points. Before the interview, think about what's important to you. Is it salary, benefits, vacation time?
Right. It's different for everyone.
Exactly. And be ready to articulate why you deserve what you're asking for. Don't just say, I want more money. Instead, highlight your skills, experience, and what you bring to the table.
So I could say something like, based on my experience leading successful projects, I believe my skills align with the higher end of the salary range for this position. Would you be open to discussing this further?
Perfect. You're framing your request in a way that emphasizes your value and shows that you've done your homework.
This is so empowering. I feel like I'm actually starting to enjoy the idea of negotiating. Okay, so let's say we've nailed the salary discussion. Is there anything else we need to know before we move on to some real-life scenarios?
There's one more crucial aspect of interview preparation that we should cover. It's all about.
All right, we're back. and ready to tackle the final stretch of our job interview.
Yeah.
Deep dive. We talked about killer answers, smart questions,
Right.
even how to handle that tricky salary conversation.
Uh-huh.
But there's one piece missing. How do we actually present ourselves in the interview?
You're absolutely right. All the preparation in the world won't matter if you don't project confidence and authenticity during the interview itself.
So we're talking about body language, eye contact,
Yes.
all that good stuff. I have to admit, I get so nervous, I probably look like a robot.
It's natural to feel nervous, but there are some simple techniques to help you appear more confident and engaging. First, focus on your posture. Sit up straight, shoulders back, but not stiff. This conveys a sense of alertness and presence.
Okay, shoulders back check. What about eye contact?
Okay.
I always struggle with knowing where to look.
Good eye contact is crucial. Try to maintain eye contact with the interviewer for a few seconds at a time, but don't stare them down. It's okay to glance away briefly, but keep bringing your focus back to them. This shows you're actively listening and engaged.
So it's about finding a balance, being attentive without being creepy.
Exactly. And don't forget to smile. A genuine smile can instantly put both you and the interviewer at ease. It shows you're approachable and enthusiastic about the opportunity.
Okay, smile check. What about my hands? I always feel like I'm fidgeting or playing with my hair when I'm nervous.
Be mindful of your hand gestures. Use them naturally to emphasize points, but avoid excessive fidgeting. It can be helpful to keep your hands clasped in your lap or resting lightly on the table.
So it's about controlled movements, using my hands to add to the conversation, not distract from it.
Exactly. Now let's talk about your voice. It's important to speak clearly and project your voice so the interviewer can hear you easily, but don't speak too fast or too softly.
Oh, I definitely have a tendency to speed up when I'm nervous.
It's a common reaction, but try to be conscious of your pace. Take a deep breath before you answer each question and speak at a moderate pace. This will help you stay calm and ensure your message comes across clearly.
Okay, deep breaths, slow down.
Yeah.
Got it. This is all so helpful. But what about those unexpected curveballs? Like, what if I totally blank on a question?
Yeah.
Or they ask about something I wasn't prepared for?
Don't panic. It happens to everyone if you need a moment to gather your thoughts. It's okay to say something like, "That's a great question. Let me think about that for a moment." Or, "Could you rephrase the question? I want to make sure I understand what you're asking."
So it's better to pause and think than to blurt out something that doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. And if you really don't know the answer, be honest about it. You could say something like, "I'm not familiar with that specific software, but I'm eager to learn new tools." The key is to show that you're adaptable and willing to grow.
I love that. Turning a potential weakness into an opportunity to highlight your eagerness to learn. Okay, I feel like we've covered everything. I'm actually starting to feel excited about my next interview.
That's the spirit. Remember, preparation breeds confidence, and even if you don't get every job you interview for, each experience is valuable. You're learning, growing, and getting closer to your dream role.
So true. It's all part of the journey. I think this deep dive has been a total game changer. I feel so much more prepared and empowered to tackle those interviews head on.
It's been my pleasure, and remember, the most important thing is to be yourself. Let your personality shine through. And don't be afraid to let your enthusiasm show.
Thanks for all the amazing tips. I know our listeners are going to rock their next interviews.
I'm sure they will.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Learn English Naturally. We hope you found these insights helpful. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives on everything from language skills to career advice. We'll see you next time.